So even with the new distributor, I noticed my timing readings weren't super precise. There's kind of a bit of a bounce going on, and if I compare the advance on the timing light to the readings on the timing tab, they don't quite line up, so something a little funny is going on. So instead of using the advanced timing light, I actually bought another timing light that doesn't have advance that should give a nice static reading. But how can we set total advance without an advanced timing light? Well, first, we'll verify top dead center with a piston stop. I don't have one, so let's take a ratty old spark plug and make one. First, we'll cut off the ground strap, then we'll break off the porcelain and knock it out of the steel shell. On a lot of spark plugs, you can cut off the crimp with some sort of cutting tool and then slide the whole thing out, but these were real stubborn. Once we're down to just the steel shell, we can drill it and tap it to install a bolt. In this case, this is a 7/16 bolt because it is the closest thing to fitting. It's a little big, and this is a grade 5. I would suggest using an ungraded bolt just for a little extra security and not scraping up the piston. But you can take that bolt and round the head off on the grinder. Ideally, you'd want one threaded all the way to the head, but this one is long enough that it'll work for our application. So okay, we've made a piston stop. So what is a piston stop? As you can see, it's very simple. You install it into a spark plug hole, and then by tightening or loosening the bolts, you can adjust the height at which the piston will contact it. That lets us bring the piston to a solid, repeatable height to find true top dead center. There are lots of things that can cause the top dead center mark on the timing tab to be off. The outer ring on an old balancer can spin and throw the whole thing off. You can have a balancer like this one, which is the old one on that engine, which I now know, thanks to you guys, is from an older 305, where the timing mark on the balancer does not line up, or the timing tab on the timing cover could be bent or simply in the wrong location, like this 305 balancer would need one in the 12 o'clock position instead of the more common 2 o'clock. Since this bolt is a little short, we'll start with it all the way extended, and we will thread the tool into the number 1 spark plug hole. If you want, you can get it just snug with the spark plug socket. So now that the timing stop is installed, we can rotate the crankshaft until we hit it. You have to remember, we just installed a steel bolt and you have aluminum pistons. You want to be gentle. You're not trying to slam the piston into that bolt. You just want them to make enough contact to stop the rotating assembly. So we have the number 1 cylinder on the compression stroke. So we're going to bring the piston up on its stroke, carefully and slowly, until we hit the stop. And there we are. So with the piston up against the all the way extended stop, we're reading right around 12 degrees before top dead center. So keep track of that value, write it down if you have to, and then rotate the engine in the other direction so the piston is traveling back down in the cylinder. And then once it's rotated far enough, it starts to come back up. Until, once again, we hit the piston stop. So this time we can see on the timing tab, we're right about 9 degrees after top dead center. If we find the halfway point between the two measurements we just took, we can see that that timing tab is somewhere around 1.5 degrees off. So 0 degrees on that timing tab is not a true top dead center. If you really want to be thorough, you can also check top dead center on the number 6 cylinder, since it reaches the top of its stroke at the exact same time as the number 1 cylinder. By repeating this test with the piston stop set to different depths, we can be pretty confident about our data and safely make a judgment based upon it. Averaging out the data shows somewhere between 1 degree and 1.5 degrees of discrepancy. With some setups, you can easily just bend the timing tab to correct for that discrepancy, but the way this one is welding to the timing cover, it's not so easy. So instead, we'll use a timing tape and install it 1 degree off. 1 degree is really not a big deal, but since supercharged engines are very sensitive to timing, I want to be careful, and therefore I want to be as accurate as possible. So a tool I like to use is a simple timing tape. A timing tape is literally a sticker that you apply to the balancer, which allows you to do a couple of things. For one, it allows you to set a 0 point anywhere you want it to be. Another is that you can see and set total timing advance without an advanced timing light. I do have an advanced timing light, but it's cheap, and some good insurance is to have 2 ways to measure the total timing. Most timing tapes are pretty cheap, and I like these MSD ones because you get a whole bunch of them for just a couple bucks. All you do is measure the diameter of your balancer, and the one we put on there is an 8-inch. You want to be sure you have the right diameter, otherwise you're going to be working with bad numbers. And then you peel it off. It's literally just a sticker. And what I like to do is put just a couple drops of super glue underneath it, because a lot of times the adhesive on these stickers just doesn't quite hold up over time. This tape was on this balancer for probably 2 years with just a couple drops of super glue on it, and it does not seem like it's coming off anytime soon. These are really easy to install if you take the balancer off, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to rotate the engine so this part of the balancer is facing down and roll under the car and stick it on that way. And I'm going to apply the sticker 1 degree towards before top dead center. That way, by using the 0 mark on the timing tape and the 0 mark on the timing pointer, we should be looking at true top dead center. I just press the tape very lightly onto the balancer, and then we'll rotate with the piston stop still installed. If the placement looks right, I'll use the glue and stick it on for good. 11 degrees after top dead center. 10 degrees for top dead center. Timing tape is glued on there. Let's do a final check to make sure it's right. So now, with that timing tape on there, we can see at one side of the stop, we have right on the mark at 10 degrees after top dead center. Then once it hits the stop the other way around, we have 10 degrees before top dead center, right on the dot. So now, using our new 0 degree mark on the timing tape, we can set the timing with a high degree of confidence. I got these down to 35 just for a little bit of extra insurance. What can happen with the supercharger is under full boost, if the gap is too wide, it can literally blow the spark out. Decreasing the gap just a little bit should do just fine for this setup.